Hello, everyone. Welcome back for some more. Let's read Higurashi. Last time was, well, you know, a little heavy, to say the least. That might have been the heaviest YouTube video I ever put up, and I can only hope that things get a bit better now. I will say, I think the volume was a bit low, so I'm going to turn up the in-game volume just a little bit there. The piano pieces are exceedingly quiet, which is not the best for recording, but boy, I can hear it quite nicely. Anyways, I went home and washed the day's sweat off in the shower. Normally, I could reset everything by taking a shower and forgetting all the bad things. Oh, no, the shower's where it sets in. But that didn't happen today. I got out of the shower to find fresh underwear placed neatly in the laundry basket. That's such a small thing of kindness that she'll never experience, man. Normally I didn't stop to think about it, but I felt pretty happy at my mother's consideration. At the same time, however, it made me realize just how much Satoko must be suffering. The very moment I was appreciating this gentle kindness, Satoko might be bruised by her uncle's cruel words, or you know, his cruel hand. Like, let's be real here. I feel like we're going to be jumping around the physical abuse, even though we literally saw it. I went up to the second floor and shut myself in my bedroom. Then, facing my desk, I folded my arms. My topic of thought, of course, was Satoko. We thought if we could just get a public agency to intervene in the right way, the problem would be solved. But with what Coach said, I didn't think it'd be so easy. Satoko was obstinate, and she would stubbornly deny the abuse and try to endure it. That was an act of atonement towards Satoshi, who had protected her before and then ran away. As long as she thought that way, the situation wouldn't be so simple. But earlier, before Coach, I made a clear declaration. If I thought Satoko was in danger, then I would do what I had to do. In the end, that meant I was going to wait and see, too. Nevertheless, I thought I'd draw a clearer line than Coach or my friends had. If the time came, I would report it. Over the phone. Given Satoko's personality, she might criticize me if she found out. But I believed it was ultimately the best decision. Wait, Keiichi Maibara? Would that really be all it took for the problem to end? Say that I reported it to a public agency like the Child Consultation Center. What if they stuck to their wait-and-see attitude like last year again? Last year, they decided to do just that, and the situation improved temporarily. But then the aunt, thinking herself a laughingstock, increased her tormenting in secret. In the end, things became more underhanded than ever before. Oh, one sec, there we go. This year it was her uncle. I had just seen him for the first time today. But the man seemed much more direct, much more violent than the word underhanded could imply. He wasn't like their aunt, no. Not that subtle. He was more direct. He might also assault her with punches and kicks. That could easily be discerned from the bruises and such I saw on Satoko's body. Shit. You're too naive, Keiichi Maibara. However heroic it may seem to report what was happening, it doesn't save her that it doesn't mean anything. Reporting things to a public agency was only one option, and leaving everything to them would be dangerous. You would need something more to guarantee Satoko's safety. I scratched madly at my head thinking, and then tilted it back, wanting at least a little bit of calm. The memories of angry arguing with my friends today came to mind. I was embarrassed that I hadn't realized it until Rena said something. She was right. My house is big. Compared to all the houses with the straw-thatched roofs in Hinamizawa, it was really big. We did actually have empty rooms. I never thought that we were affluent, but also never that we were poor. there is something to be said about, like, coming to realize that you are middle to upper middle class and how you don't realize what you have. You know, I feel like if you're rich, if you're upper class, people know that, right? But learning you're upper middle class is tough because you're not rich and but you don't know what it's like to be anything else, right? It's a it's a difficult thing. Now don't take this as me saying that there's suffering involved in being upper middle class. Oh my god, you're reading me wrong. What I'm saying is, as a kid, you cannot tell your class really unless you are one of the extremes, you know? I just didn't admit it because people would think I was arrogant. But maybe my family really is wealthy. We had a few rooms we could lend to Satoko. The guest rooms are only in use when people related to my dad's job came and when people related to my dad's job come and stay every once in a while. Plus, if we cleaned up a few of the rooms my dad used for storage, they could work well for her as well. As for food expenses, well, that might have been a more serious problem than a kid like me could imagine. Lunch every day would be manageable. All of our friends would just have to bring a little bit more for lunch than we usually did. With everyone pecking at everyone else's food anyway, it would be manageable. For breakfast and dinner, though, well, that would have to be up to Mom. I would need to convince her to lend Satoko more than just a room. Of course, I don't even think convincing her of that would be easy. About how much did it cost for one person to eat? How many tens of thousands of yen per month? They couldn't complain about it if I shouldered that, could they? I only had 10 or 20,000 yen in savings, but it was something. I actually had even more thanks to New Year's gifts and such, but my parents had taken all that and put it into a fixed time deposit, which, I'm gonna be real, that's the right move, parents, right? That is absolutely the right move. There's a big difference between parents who take their time out to, you know, get them ready for the future versus ones who don't. That makes some changes. If I get access to that, it should add up to a lot of money. And if I got that far, I should ask Mion and Rena to share some of the burden. Of course, I wouldn't depend on that. Rena got mad at me, didn't she? About how I shouldn't just shove responsibility onto others. I'd have to ask for help. Even so, I'd basically be saving her myself. I'd follow through on it. Oh, but it wouldn't only be food expenses. There were a lot of other things you couldn't do without, like baths and laundry. My mother was awfully methodical and strict about cutting out inefficiencies, and for once, that was troublesome. She might even make reference to the money it would cost for the detergent Satoko would use for her own clothes. I couldn't think only about food expenses. I needed more money. Hey, wait, Keiichi Maibara, since when was this all about money? Even if you could afford it, you would need your parents' permission first. They'd be looking after a young girl for a really long time. What would I say to persuade them? Just calm down a little, Keiichi Maibara, and you'll realize right away that you can't. Even if you ask them seriously, they would tell you to call the police. Even if you manage to gain their empathy, why should the Maibara family have to shoulder all the burden by itself? That's what would happen. That was it. It was very sad and frustrating, but no matter how much I wanted to help, my resolution alone couldn't save anything.
そんなにも子供って無力なのかよ。
I felt frustrated. I believed my feelings were stronger than anyone else's. I even thought they were stronger than Coach's. And yet, at that point, there were 2 knocks on my door and Mom poked her head inside.
起きてたの？さっきからご飯ってずっと呼んでるわよ。
あ、うん。今行く。
As someone financially dependent on his parents, I shouldn't say this, but I just sat around doing nothing and food suddenly appeared. It felt so natural to me that I shamelessly thought of it as the responsibility of the parents who gave birth to me. When I realized that natural thing was actually a right, I came to realize just how hard it was to grant that privilege to others. Even the boring meal in front of me, no better than it ever was, had more meaning than that tonight. Like, this is reminding me, like, there was a certain point when I realized that mealtime with the family is special every single time. Like, growing up, you realize, oh, it's dinner, whatever I have for dinner night. It doesn't matter, right? Who cares? It's food, right? It's the regular food you always get. But there was a moment where I realized that, oh my God, this food is good. I'm with my family. We're sitting together. We talk together. We love each other, and how important that is. You know, when I stopped, there was a bit of time where I would go and and we do it occasionally still. But I'd take my food down to my room and watch TV or something. I kind of stopped being with family for a little bit. But there was a moment where I realized how important and precious that was. And I think that's part of growing up. And I think, God, he's really grown up here when you really think about your station in life as a child, your station in life, in your family dynamic, and even your family station. Like, where are they? What type of family are they? This is an incredibly mature moment from Keiichi. There was food for 3 on the table right now, for Dad, for Mom, and for me. I couldn't imagine how hard it would be to have another place at the table. Think, Keiichi Maibara. It was hard to make food for 4, and just about think about how 4 people could eat food made for 3. Oh, I changed around the way I thought, and with that I began to consider an unthinkably bold plan. That's right, I didn't need to get my parents' permission. She... Oh my God, are we doing this? She should just live here in secret. I got upset when I found out a while ago, but if I remembered right, if you climbed out of the window, then shimmied down the first floor roof or the gutter, you could go in and out of the house directly from my room. Well, Satoko's physical ability far surpassed my own, so it would be even easier for her. I hadn't even thought about it, but her living here secretly was actually a necessity. If only I brought Satoko to my house when the public agency said they would wait and see. In other words, if Satoko's uncle continued to be her guardian. If, in such a situation, word got out that she was here, her uncle would barge in and drag Satoko back with him. Her uncle was her rightful guardian, so my parents would hand her over without an argument, no doubt. So, I just needed to keep it a secret that she was living here. If it needs to be a secret, then, well, having my parents' help would mean a lot, but gotta deceive your allies first, like they always say. Oh no, where are we going with this? Okay. Persuading my parents was an unrealistic proposition, so I'll search for a way to have her live here in secret. Never mind about the maturity, I take it back. When I was around, she would just have to be really quiet in my room on the 2nd floor. The issue was the daytime. If she was hiding from her uncle, then she shouldn't go to school. Might be lonely, but not going would be the better option. I could easily teach Satoko the stuff she learns in her grade. Actually, during school, I mostly help out the younger kids rather than study my own stuff. During the day, I would need to go to school, so I wouldn't be at home. My parents respected my privacy now that I was this age, so they wouldn't go snooping around my room while I was gone. That's a lie. That's a lie. Buddy, I mean, that's a lie. You know that, right? They say that, but no, they are absolutely going into your room. And they'd be stupid to not. I think. Okay, thank God. If she holed herself up in my room, well, it would be okay, right? If my parents did come, thanks to where that 2nd floor was, she could hear their approach from the sound of them coming up the stairs. And there would be a little bit of time before they got all the way up, I estimated the seconds, that she should be able to hide herself in the closet. Wait, Keiichi. Something doesn't make sense. If she can't go to school, then what'll she do for lunch? Calm down already. I could just leave her my own lunch, couldn't I? I should just go to school without lunch and get everyone else to split theirs with me. Okay, that's good. No more contradictions or oversights, right? Oh, breakfast and dinner. I could somehow get her to go without breakfast. I could go with 2 meals a day when I sleep in. I can go with 2 meals a day when I sleep on Sundays, after all. Every night, I'd pretend as though I had a bigger appetite and then ask for a bigger helping. And then I could just somehow give part of that to Satoko. As a test, I stood up from my seat with my plate of fish in my
どう
hands.
したのケイチ？ ご飯は座って食べなさい。
Sorry, the fish wants to be eaten in my bedroom.
うん。ちょっと気分が変えたくなってさ。自分の部屋で食べてもいいかな。
ボロボロ落として汚すぞ。
Well, mission failed.
食事は食卓で食べなさい。
うん。ごめん。
Hey, wait. I only tried to take away one plate of fish and they ganged up on me. In reality, it was impossible for me to smuggle food away without my parents knowing about it. But it must have been worth taking the time to think about. There must be some trick, some method to avoid them realizing. Even if I can't think of one today, I might think of one tomorrow. My appetite was rapidly fading, so I finished early and went back to my room. I went back there and tried to think a bit from Satoko's point of view. For example, let's say my parents were coming up the stairs right now. I've got to hide. I opened the closet. Clatter, clatter. It didn't open quietly. Hey, wait. Didn't it always open real smooth and quiet? Why was it suddenly doing this now? Oh, was this house even structurally safe? Was it already showing signs of dilapidation? Or were the hinges just not greased well enough? Could I just apply some lubricating wax? The sound itself may have been soft, but it left me uneasy as to whether my parents would detect it happening when they climbed the stairs. This was an easy problem. I could do something about it. I just had to fix it up a little bit so it didn't make noise anymore. For now, I'll close myself in the closet as though I'd successfully hid. I basically always left my futon out on the floor. Couldn't think of any real reason my parents would want to go into my closet. Even so, there might be some reason they would. I might need to construct some sort of camouflage so that she wouldn't be noticed even if they did open it. But the more she worried about that, the less time she'd actually have to hide, meaning it would be more likely they'd hear a noise, and then I suddenly had to go to the bathroom. The bathroom? The need to use the toilet, so obvious and yet such a fatal flaw. The only bathroom was on the first floor. It would be absolutely impossible for her to use it without my family realizing. I might just need to set up a portable toilet, like a chamber pot, I guess. Satoko would hate it, so she could go in my room. But the stench would be pretty terrible. Anyone sensitive would probably notice the smell without even coming into my room, and then my parents would think I'm pissing myself all the time. The bath was okay, though. She could just take a bath when my parents were out. But I couldn't do anything about a toilet. When her stomach started to hurt, if my parents were lazing around downstairs, she'd be in trouble. It was then I noticed that I'd been clawing at my head with both hands. I sat down in the dark closet with my knees against my chest. I buried my face in them and tore at my hair. The more I thought, the more contradictions popped up. The more I thought, the more things failed. And the more I worried, the more I was reminded of how little power I actually had. My back started to hurt from staying in a cramped place for so long. If I was to shelter Satoko, I would need to force her to feel this pain. To live in such a dark, narrow, suffocating place forever. But it would still be better than being abused by her uncle, or so I wanted to think. It got hard to breathe, so I gave in and crawled out of the closet. I looked at the clock and, to my surprise, it was 3:30 in the morning. It felt like so little time. What the frick? It felt like so little time, but it was so unbelievably long. When I realized I was slammed with a terrible urge to sleep as if the time had only just caught up with me. I didn't have enough strength to fight it, and I fell flat onto my futon. Shit, I can't just go to sleep like this. If I waste any time, that'll mean I'm taking the same wait-and-see attitude that Mion and Coach and everyone else did. I need to keep worrying about how to rescue Sadako for a minute or even a second longer than everyone else. Isn't there a better way? Isn't there a better way? That one phrase I spoke to myself swirled around and around in a spiral and steadily took over my entire mind. For my last moment of consciousness, I thought, there were a lot of blind spots in what I'd consider tonight, but I absolutely wasn't wrong for having those ideas. Tomorrow, I would suggest this bold plan to the others. Mion might be able to help somehow, and Rena was really sharp, so she might have a good suggestion. And above all, we needed to rescue Satoko once again, with everyone helping out. I felt pathetic for letting myself fall asleep. I'm Sorry, Satoko. Man. Man. This is, again, the most realistic type of horror I've ever experienced. Just the pure helplessness. Like, this is stuff, this is what I would have to deal with when I was young, right? You know, trying to like sneak out from family and stuff, which I mean, I did that. I feel like a lot of people did that. You know, when you're trying to sneak stuff and hide stuff from family, you know, you come up with these ideas and you try them and they fall apart. And but the difference was, for me, it was frivolous stuff. Buying a video game when they didn't want me playing the game, right? You know, it was rated M and I wanted it or something. Or, you know, it might have been, you know, sneaking out to go to an anime convention with friends. That's the sort of crazy stuff I got up to. No partying or bars, just going to anime conventions and playing video games. But this is a person. This is serious, right? The ceiling blurred into view. It was hot. There was a thin layer of moist sweat on me. The voice of the cicadas permeating my room were somehow grating to my head.
レ、今日、日曜日じゃないよな。
I remembered today was a weekday and quickly brought myself to consciousness. And then finally I leaped out of bed. The clock read a little before 10. Oh God, you are late to school, buddy. I was totally late. When I wandered downstairs, my mom would get mad at me. There was nothing I could do, though. After reviewing the schedule for the school day for a moment, I suitably rearranged the stuff in my school bag. I hurried and got dressed, then went down the stairs. I was gonna say, nobody came to check on him? There was no sign of my parents anywhere. Maybe they went out somewhere together. Oh, so that's how it was. My mother had probably woken me up once this morning, but then I fell back asleep without remembering it. And my parents, thinking I'd gone to school, left. Something like that probably happened. I went to the front door, and as I expected, it was locked. Looked like I was right. It's further evidence of my speculation being correct. When I realized my parents weren't here, I suddenly felt less like I had to rush to get to school. There was one portion of breakfast left in the dining room. Probably mine. The milk they'd poured in had gone warm since a little while ago. When I realized how hard it would be to sneak food for Satoko, yesterday I'd cried. Well, thinking back on it, food wasn't the only issue in that regard. I wasn't in a position where I could care for Satoko, where I would care for... Wait, I wasn't in a position where I could care for Satoko by myself anyway. Is that a typo? The rare typo. It's such a heavy thing just to save a single person. I'd seen this on TV and in comics all the time. Those feel-good words about how you'll save your friends for sure and such. Was that why I ran my mouth like that, swearing to save her because I wanted to feel good about it? No, that absolutely wasn't true. Because the fact was, I couldn't save her. Because I didn't want to think like an adult. Like I couldn't do anything but watch. Had Satoko gone to school today? I immediately realized that was a meaningless question. Whether or not she did, there wouldn't be a change in the environment she'd been placed in. I couldn't save her and no one else could either. Then we could only pray for a miracle.
俺たちは無力か。
Alright, buddy, listen. Alright, hear me out. Molotov cocktail. Right? No one knows. We're home alone. No one knows. But then again, if Satoko... Oh, but damn, wait, if Satoko's in there, though, never mind. With a vague goal of getting to school in mind, I sluggishly put on my shoes and stumbled out the front door. I'd only overslept by 2 or 3 hours, but the sunlight and air felt completely different from how they usually were in the morning. Well, of course they did. Once 10 o'clock came around, you could barely call it morning anymore. Okay, I disagree with that, but okay. I didn't feel like walking the same old route to school. I needed to ultimately end up there, but it was like I didn't want to choose the shortest, the most proactive one to get to school. Put in a more positive light, maybe I wanted some time to walk by myself and think. I had to go to school, partly to make sure Satoko was safe, but I hadn't come up with any plans yet. Nothing since last night. So the path I took from my house was in the complete opposite direction. If I went this way, I'd pass Rena's house and the dam site. It would be quite a detour. I calculated how long of a detour it would end up being, then, well, satisfied with the answer, I started to walk. Rena had brought me to the dam site a few times. One section of it had turned into an unlawful, oversized garbage dump, and Rena really liked going fishing for junk in there. Without that, she'd come off as a completely normal girl, too. Well, I can think of a few other qualities she could do without, but whatever. The view quickly opened up wide, and I was hit by a strong wind. There was no shelter here at this damn big site. It was a good thing I came here, I thought. At the very least, it was more healthy to think in a place like this instead of my cramped bedroom. Took a deep breath and filled my lungs with the rich, cold air unique to Hinamizawa. Ring, ring. I turned around reflexively. It was a bicycle bell. Considering where I was standing, I don't think they were trying to get me out of the way. They'd rang the bell because they wanted something from me. Oh, hey!
申し訳ないね。
Okay. Hi.
君、ひなみ沢の人だよね。
Maybe.
そうですけど。
Forgot about you. I've seen this person around a few times. Right, I remembered. His name, I think, was Tomitake, a freelance photographer who lived in Tokyo. He would zealously visit Hinamizawa every season to take pictures, or so Mion and the others told me, I think.
古出神社ってここからどう行けばいいか教えてもらえないか
Oh,
い
buddy, you are in the wrong place.
マップを宿に置いてきちゃったみたいでね困ってたんだよ
ここから神社ですか。
I knew where everything was in my head, but explaining how to get there was difficult. I was a little irritated at having been bothered by this, but when I realized it meant my detour actually meant something, well, that feeling quickly faded.
教えてもいいですけど、ちょっと口で説明するのは難しいですよ。一緒でよければ連れて行ってあげますけど。
えそれはかたじけないね助かるよあでもいいのかい
Are you gonna ask why I'm not in school?
君の用事は
Tomitake-san finally appeared to realize how strange it was for a student like me to be here at this time of day. I smoothly told him not to worry about it, and turned my back and started walking towards the Furude shrine. Tomitake-san hurried to turn his bike around and came after me.
ごめん気にしないでくれよ男には組織を離れて一匹狼になりたい時もあるんだからね
Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. Sometimes men have to go their own way. I mean, no. Not like that. No, they don't. What a free-minded freelancer. It was easy for me, too, that he was under that impression.
僕は富武、フリーカメラマンさ。専門は野鳥と風景。まだまだ無名だけどね。
Seemed absurd for him to I'm sorry, hold up. Did he get another voice? I feel like this is another different voice.
僕は富武、フリーカメラマンさ。専門は野鳥と風景。まだまだ無名だけどね。
I feel like his voice is different again. If that's the case, that's crazy. It seemed absurd for him to introduce himself when I was showing him to the shrine, but he gave me his name, so I needed to give mine
前
back.
原圭一です。まあよろしく。
圭一くんかい。よろしくね。
He seemed like a pretty silly man, but that felt kind of good considering I've been suffocating with worry over Satoko all night. Along the way, Tomitake-san spoke at length to me about how precious the nature in Hinamizawa was, and how it was a treasure trove of rare wild birds, despite my not having asked. I wasn't interested in what he had to say, but well, he seemed to be enjoying himself, so I left him to it.
この石段を上がれば神社の境内です。
ありがとう助かったよああちょっと遅刻しちゃったかな
Tomitake-san mumbled to himself. He left his bicycle nearby and started to climb the stairs quickly. I didn't have a watch, but as far as my internal clock could guess, it was still a little late in the morning. School wasn't very far from here. Maybe I could kill a little more time until then. With that in mind, I went up the steps in pursuit of Tomitake-san. When I reached the top of the long staircase, I arrived at the wide open shrine grounds that were a little too grand looking for this tiny village. Tomitake-san, oh, there he is. It looked like he was supposed to be meeting someone here. Then he got lost and ended up being late. He was bowing to a lady who must have been the person he was meeting. Wait, is she alive? Oh. You know, I assumed she was the one who got her fingernails destroyed in the beginning. Huh, okay. Well, the lady, I knew her. Okay, yeah, that's what she looks like, I guess.
あら、前原くんじゃない。こんにちは。今日は学校はお休みかしら？
Let's go with that.
あれなんだ、ケイチ君ついてきたのかい？
別にそんなつもりはないですよ。ただちょっと時間つぶしがしたかっただけです。
あらあら、重役出勤とは優雅なものね。さすがは有名人。今から大物ぶりを発揮してること。
What was I, a celebrity? Well, she did say my name out of nowhere anyway. I was oddly concerned about what she meant by famous.
あら、私の名前はまだ思い出せない？
Oh, please don't call me out for that.
高野美代さんだよ。
Thank you.
村の診療所に勤めてる。ケイチ君は健康そうだから、あまり病院のお世話にはならないかな。
せっかくお知り合いになれたんだから、今度病気か何かできたら、ちょっぴりだけサービスしてあげようかしらね。
Again, one thing that there's like discussions about is the use of the word service, the loan word. I think it's totally fine to translate it or give you some special service, you kind of work that in. But I know some people are so against that. A lady named Takano-san, well, I kind of didn't remember her. Maybe we'd passed each other on the street a few times, but I'm pretty sure this is the first time we talked. Well, this is Hinamizawa. Even if I don't know a person's name, it's not unusual for them to know mine. I glanced at Takano-san and saw she had a bag and a camera.
ひょっとして二人とも写真仲間ですか？あ、それで待ち合わせを。
Dude,
仲間でなんてとん
photography
で
date?
もない。
I would go insane for a photography date. That'd be so fun.
素人の私に二郎さんが優しくてほどきをしてくださるだけなのよ。
He's gently guiding your hips.
ねえ。
あ、そんなことないよ。
Oh, bro totally thought it was a date.
高野さんは飲み込みが早いからね。僕の指導なんかなくても、実に自由に撮影をこなすよ。本当さ。
I couldn't tell which of them was ahead in the conversation. Well, there was certainly one couple you wouldn't get tired of
い
watching.
よいよあさってが綿流しね。
Okay, it's coming up right away.
今年はいい写真が撮れるといいんだけど。
Day after
明
tomorrow.
日の設営シーンからレンズに収めるつもりだよ。そういう準備風景からもお祭りの活力を捉えたいんだ。
Oh, I just remembered. There was some village festival called Tatarigoroshi or something on the day after tomorrow on Sunday.
南沢の守り神、お社様に感謝するため、古い布団を積み重ねて供
I
養
wonder
す
how
る。
much we'll go into it this
そん
time
なお祭
because
りでしたっけ？
we went into it a lot last time.
あら、ご名答。前原くん。引っ越してきたばかりにしては博識ね。そう。お社様に感謝するためのお祭り。
Takano-san smiled somehow meaningfully, but didn't tell me what part of a festival to think Yashiro-sama needed to be laughed
や
at.
れ高野さんは。でもどうだろうね、今年は。
二度あることは三度ある。
Oh. That must be a very short, close idiom in Japanese.
そしてもう四度あったのよ。
Yeah, I was gonna say, I thought it was a bit more than 3 times.
五度目がないと言える方が何の根拠もないと思うけれど。
I knew what they meant by their whispered exchange. On the day of the Watanagashi, a freak death always occurs, which people call Oyashiro-sama's curse, and a disappearance occurs that people call being demoned away. These strange events had happened 4 years running, and Watanagashi, rapidly approaching the day after tomorrow, marked the 5th.
村の旧敵にたたりをなすお社様か。 今年もあるとして、果たしてその矛を受けるのは誰になるだろうね。あ、僕はここに来るたびにちゃんとお参りしてお賽銭を入れてる。
He's like, not me. I'm a good boy.
僕じゃないことは確かだよ。
あらそう。近年のお社様は異邦人には特に厳しいって話よ。引っ越してきたばかりとはいえ、前原くんはちゃんとひなみ沢に住んでる村人だけど、二郎さんは毎年来るだけのただのよそ者。さーて、今年は見逃してもらえるかしら。
ひどいな。
Tomatake-san was the only one with a pained grin, but we were all smiling, me included. Oyashiro-sama, the one who used a curse to kill people involved with the dam construction project, one after the next. He killed the dam construction manager, killed Satoko's parents for supporting it, and the next year he even killed her aunt. If the deeming away was part of that curse, then you could add Satoshi to the list of victims. As I thought about it, I realized that in the serial freak death accidents, the overwhelming majority had the last name Hojo. Half the deaths and disappearances had come from the Hojo family. The Hojo family lived here in Hinamizawa. That mean Oyashiro-sama punished and cursed them especially harsh because, well, despite that, they've been in favor of the dam?
聡子のおじが帰ってきたって話は聞いてますか？
Oh wow, we're just confronting them with this? Takano-san, who had been enjoying a few words with Tomatake-san, was caught unaware by the sudden inquiry.
あ、ごめんなさい。今なんて？
あ、いえ、聡子の両親がたたり殺されて、おばもたたり殺されて、だったら順番的には次はおじの番かなって思ったんです。
Hey, you know what? You know what? I wouldn't complain.
去年のたたりでおばが無残な死に方をし、
That'd be fine.
それに恐れをなして町に逃げていたやつですよ。お社様は確か村を捨てて逃げ出そうとするのは許さなかったですよね。
Is this the first time I'm actively cheering for a death? I hadn't intended to be quite this persistent, but those words, they just flowed out of my mouth without me thinking about it. Right, Oyashiro-sama's curse. I didn't believe in something so unrealistic, of course, but the fact was that every year, unfortunate accidents and incidents happened to enemies of the village. Like Takano-san just said just now, it happened 4 times. No one could say there wouldn't be a 5th.
ふーん、面白い説ね。確かに過去の犠牲者を見れば北条生が多いのは事実。その延長として考えれば、今年はおじが死ぬか消えるかする可能性は
もう高野さんは起こるかもしれない不幸を笑うのは良くないよ。
ごめんなさいね。でもお社様のたたりは私のライフワークだし。
That's a very strange thing to say as your life's work as a nurse, but then again, I've known nurses who their life work is multi-level marketing schemes. Takano-san gave off a mysterious, somehow intellectual impression, and her life's work was as mysterious in its own right. She probably really liked inexplicable supernatural phenomena or
高野
something.
さんはお社様のたたりに詳しそうですね。どうでしょう、北条の帰ってきたおじがたたりに会う可能性は。
Be nice if it's like 95%.
あら何？そのおじさんを殺したくて仕方がないみたいね。
Yup.
そんなんじゃないです。
どうだろうね。神様の気まぐれ次第だからね。
前原くん、サンタクロースの正体は知ってる？
What? Yeah, huh? I got a strange question all of a sudden and I couldn't immediately answer. Are you asking for... I mean, is the answer my parents or St. Nicholas?
なに？知らないの？
I'm sorry, is that her boob? Why she got them chest beefers, though? That's an insane boob. What the frick?
パパよ。
Oh, okay. Do you just go around telling kids that Santa doesn't exist? Is that how you get your kicks?
みんなの家のパパ。
Okay.
なんだ、そういう意味ですか。そりゃそうですよ。どんなものの正体だって最終的には人間です。
Alright, full disclosure, I didn't know that Santa wasn't real until I was in like grade like 6. So like 11 years old. Because like straight up, my family did such a good job with pretending that it literally took until my mom took me out of school to like go do Christmas shopping, and she's like, Santa needs help with buying presents, and I'm like, wait, what do you mean? And then it was revealed that yeah, no, Santa is the world's greatest lie. And it shook me indeed.
だってここは人間しかいない世界なんですから、すべての現象は人間で解明できるはずです。
God, I was believing in so okay, but we have the phrase middle school syndrome, right? I was believing in all sorts of stuff at that time. I feel like I put that somewhat strangely, but Takano-san was not as dissatisfied with the reply as I might have
あ
guessed.
ら、その年齢のうちからそれに気づけるなんてなかなかね。人間の世で起こる現象はすべて人間の都合で人間が起こす。では前原くん、もう一度尋ねるわよ。今度はサンタクロースじゃなくてお社様。
Okay, are you saying it's all the daddies in the world?
お社様のたたりの正体は何かわかるかしら？
Takano-san took a step towards me and gazed into my eyes as she asked. Santa Claus was really the parents of every family's children. If lionizing, what a good word, that legend was a corporate tactic to try and profit during Christmas sales. Wow, buddy, that's a really like sad way of looking at it. I thought it was to try and like get kids to be good, you know? Oh, is Oyashiro-sama really? Are you saying Oyashiro-sama is another collective sort of thing? It's all the parents?
と、
あら、あなたが言ったのよ。ここは人間しかいない世界だって。すべての現象は人間で解明できるって。
I mean, I
圭一君、
guess.
ここだけの話だよ。高野さんはね、お社様のたたりをめぐる一連の連続開始事件をね、ひなみ沢の村人が何かの儀式に基づいて行っている人為的殺人事件でないかと見ているんだよ。
誤解しないでね。私はそれに至る教義や思想、文化を民族学的見地から研究することがライフワークなの。
You know, but from what she says, and even some of her mannerisms, boy, she is just blonde Nico Robin, huh?
別に犯人が誰かなんてことには全く興味がないのよ。そこだけ勘違いしないでちょうだいね。
I could only tell that she was saying some crazy stuff. To use a food analogy, like you'd force feed a duck to be fattened. Like she forced her words down my throat. That's what it felt like. I had foie gras a few times. It's not worth the damage done to the duck, you know? It's not that good. I think regular duck is better than foie gras.
そもそもそれを理解するためには、ひなみ沢村が鬼ヶ淵村と呼ばれていた古代にまで遡らなければならない。鬼と血を交わらせたと信じる犯人犯気の仙人たちが。
Takano-san, having entered her home field, leaned forward and began to speak of ridiculous matters. Tomitaka-san realized she was overawing me and interrupted for me.
高野さん、その話をいきなり圭一君にしても、ほら、彼も面食らってるよ。
I'm still trying to understand the Santa thing.
あら、そう？続きに興味があったらいつでも言ってね。前原くんくらいの年頃の男の子が好きそうな。
ありがとうございます。気が向いたらそのうちに。
For now, I softly and safely gave my refusal. Takano-san seemed a little unhappy that Tomitaka-san had rained on her parade, but she stopped talking about it then. Even so, it was still a very interesting story. That Oyashiro-sama's curse, which we thought of as strange freak deaths, were actually homicides perpetrated by the people of the village.
まあ常識的に考えればそうですよね。たたりなんかで 人が死ぬはずない。誰かがタタリになぞらえて殺してるに決まってます。
そうね。それが誰なのかは研究しない方が無難ね。
I mean, from the way she says there, she thinks makes it sound like she thinks it's one person. I don't know. I think it's another group thing.
高野さんは知ってそうですね。証拠はないまでも確信を持っているくらいには。
あら、どうしてそう思うのかしら。
I just kind of felt it vaguely. Didn't seem like her extreme passion for this research would calm down just because of things were taboo or because it was easier and safer. This person loved walking through the profound, forbidden abyss of risks and taboos.
それくらいにしなよ、圭一君。せっかく助けてあげたのに、またお社様のたたりの話が始まっちゃうよ。涼しいうちに散策に行きたかったのにな。
Mitake-san seemed a little disappointed to not be able to go on the date he'd planned since I brought up a weird topic. Right now, there was something I wanted to ask, just for a little bit. And that was about whether Satoko's uncle will be chosen for the curse this year. If he was, well, then another miracle would happen, just like last year. A terrible incident would happen again, but it would release Satoko from her unfortunate circumstances once more.
まあ、もちろん、おそらくあの辺りの人たちが関わってるんだろうなって。鬼ヶ淵村の歴史を研究していれば、自然と至る必然的結末。
それは誰です？
What would I do if I knew? I asked that question to the other me deep inside, but I got no reply.
熱心ね。それを知ってどうするつもりかしら。
別に。
知ったらあなたにも危険が降りかかるかもしれないわよ。5年目のたたりはあなただったりして。
Takano-san, toying with taboo, gave a devilish, satisfied smile, as though nothing in the world would be more amusing. She was probably trying to tease me, but I didn't feel like going along with her little game one bit.
偉そうな能書きでもったいぶってますが、高野さんだってよくは分かってないみたいじゃないですか。
I felt a tinge of irritation at Takano-san's roundabout way of speaking, but those emotions escaped my mouth like water flowing through a strainer. Even I was surprised at how directly I'd spoken about what I felt. Of course, I wasn't the only one taken aback.
あら、言ってくれるわね。坊やなのに挑発までできるの？意外に野生的ね。嫌いじゃないわよ、そういうの。
Takano-san's tongue poked out of her mouth, and I was convinced that it was long, thin, and split in the middle like a snake's. Yo, reptilian! Could you imagine if the big twist is that Takano-san is a reptile lady? You think she lays eggs?
教えてあげてもよくってよ。でも教えてあげる前に3つ
That's a
誓
lot,
ってもらうわ。私が何を教えても
Oh God.
後悔しない。口外しない。
Oh God.
私が言ったなんて
Oh God.
絶対言わない。
I gulped firmly and nodded. Mitake made an exaggerated expression of distress, gave a dry, vague smile, and lit a cigarette.
教えてください。タタリを下しているのは誰です？タタる相手を選んでいるのは誰なんです？
And after I said that, I finally realized why I wanted to know. Oh God, really? Right now? Huh? Wait, are they not telling us? Are we skipping ahead? Because if so, that might be scary. Are we actually? Oh my God. Oh, they're not telling us. That's good storytelling, but that's bad for my heart. Many of my classmates were playing freely in the schoolyard. A few of them just ran out of the school building after putting on their shoes and tapping their toes to the ground. It looked like they had just finished eating lunch. From a time-manipulating standpoint, I guess I succeeded.
前原さん、大丈夫なんですか？
few girls noticed me that sounded like a boy, but alright, and came running over. It's only natural they were worried. You'd think if someone wasn't there in the morning, they'd be out the rest of the day.
まあ遅刻さ気にしないでくれ。それより聡子はどうだ？今日は来てるか？
The girls exchanged glances. I saw oh no, I saw a thin shadow fall over their faces and knew the answer without needing to hear them reply. Satoko was absent today too. When all was said and done, after being out 3 days, she'd only come back for 1. And now she was out again. Who knew if she would come tomorrow?
うんでもさとこちゃんから電話があったって先生言ってました。
風邪って言ってたよね。みんな家に帰ったらうがいをちゃんとしましょうって先生言ってました。
Alright, I've never heard that before. Wait a minute, Chie-sensei. That's a little too thick-headed, don't you think? You're a teacher, aren't you? Why can't you be more sensitive and catch on to the fact that your pupil is sending out an SOS? But even if she did, there was nothing we could hope for. The most she could do was a home visitation. She didn't have any right to take Satoko from her uncle into safety. No matter the result, it would end up just like the public agencies with a wait-and-see attitude. It would just piss Satoko's uncle off, and her suffering would only grow deeper. And wasn't saying she had a cold the best option?
そうだな。みんなも風邪に気をつけろよ。もう行っていいぜ。昼休みはまだ長いぞ。
The girls excitedly scattered into the schoolyard. This is like... It's so genuinely frustrating that, like, there's just nothing we can do. And I mean, that is the point, right? That is the whole point. But it is so genuinely distressing that there is seemingly nothing we can do. Rena was yelling out of the classroom window, waving her hand. A moment later, Mio and Rika-chan poked their heads out too.
圭一までお休みしましたから、とても心配しましたのですよ。でもよかった。顔色もそんなに悪くないし、とりあえず元気そう。
I felt a little uncomfortable with her saying I didn't look sick, but I didn't care that much.
どうしたの？寝坊？
遅刻は遅刻だろ。それとも電車の事故で遅刻したとでも言えば許してくれるのか？
You don't take trains to school, buddy.
寝坊？
Mian was being a little persistent. Was she gonna put on her club president cap and scold me for being late? Well, maybe she didn't have it in for me, so I briefly stated that she was right.
まだね、お弁当あるよ。みんなで食べよう。やっぱりね、圭一くんがいないと盛り上がらないよね。
聡子は休みなんだな。
Even Rena, feigning cheerfulness, couldn't stand to hear that and her face darkened.
朝、電話があったらしいよ。風がぶり返したから、また休むってさ、長引くかもしれないって言ってた。かわいそうなので、みんなでお見舞いに行こうという話が出ていますのですよ。
I don't know whether that's a good or bad idea.
何言ってんだよ、リカちゃん。
Not pleased with Rika-chan wearing a wide smile as though it was a happy occasion, I threw cold water on her.
聡子が風邪なんかじゃない
Not
ことは
literally, right?
俺た
You
ちが
mean,
一番知ってるだろ。
like, metaphorically. Don't throw water at her.
たとえ冗談でも二度とそういう白々しいことを言うな。次は怒るからな。
Rika-chan furrowed her brow, looked down and mumbled an apology.
圭一くんだけじゃないよ。みんな辛いよ。
俺だけが悩んでるなんて思ってない。でもみんな何もできないのは本当だろ。
それはそうだけど。でも。
I got the feeling I would cause another fight if this exchange went on, so I apologized first.
ごめん、謝るから今の話は忘れてくれ。辛いのはみんなも同じだよな。ああ。
It was at least clear, however, that I was the only one who had worried so much about rescuing her. At the very least, everyone else probably got the normal amount of sleep last night. Probably had good dreams, too. I definitely hadn't. Stayed up all night thinking so desperately.
登校してきていきなりこんなこと聞いて。ケイちゃん、今日遅刻したよね。
聡子が今日欠席したこととは関係ある？
は？ミオ、お前何の話してるんだ？
ケイちゃんはたまにちょっとつ盲信なところがあるからね。今朝聡子と一緒にケイちゃんも休んだ時、聡子を家から連れ出してどこかにかくまったんじゃないかって本気で思った。
We're that easy to read, huh? Easy for you to say. If I could have, I'd have done that last night. None of them had really thought about how difficult that clear as day solution was. I was up all night thinking until the night was brightening. Then I concluded that I couldn't do anything of the sort.
バカかお前。人間一人かくまうなんてできるもんかよ。
そうだね。ごめん。気を悪くしたなら謝るよ。
別にいいよ。それより飯にしようぜ。腹が減ってんだ。
I took my bento box out of my bag. Everyone moved to make a spot for me to sit.
前原くん、今来たんですか？
And just as I was about to stick my chopsticks in, Chie Sensei came along.
はい。遅刻してすみません。寝坊しまして。
What the heck? Even the teacher was giving me that strange look.
お弁当を食べたら、院長と前原くんは職員室に来てください。
Uh-oh.
ちょっとお話がありますので。
No, wait, this might be good. Probably about Satoko, I thought. Is this her way of having us go check in on her? Maybe go to deliver the homework, but in doing so, do a welfare check, a secret welfare check? Sensei left it at that and went back out into the hallway.
弁当を食うまでもないだろう。行こうぜ、ミオ。
そうだね。
Mion and I exchanged looks, nodded to each other, and got up.
聡子ちゃんの話
Like,
だ
honestly,
ろうね。
I've had situations where I've been so, like, distraught over something that, like, food is the last thing I'm thinking of. I've had times where I've been so distraught over something I would not eat for days, you know? And it's bad. It's bad, but that is a very real feeling of, nope, I have no desire to eat. Let's go deal with this. No doubt about it. They were saying she had a cold, but everyone in the class knew the truth. I didn't think that wouldn't have reached the teacher's ears by now.
僕がずっととぼけるので、僕に聞くのをやめたのでしょう。
Okay. Revealing the truth to the teacher would only worsen the situation. Was that why she hadn't said anything? Or was it because she was Satoko's friend and knew that she was trying to endure the trial of her uncle's abuse in order to get her brother to come home?
どうする？今のうちに私たちなりの統一見解を出した方がいいかもね。
リカちゃんはどうしたい？
It's not an answer, but thank you. Satoko's closest and best friend was Rika-chan. However much I pretended to be her Nini, it didn't come close to the amount of time they'd spent together. So I felt that her opinion should be held in the highest regard.
俺は聡子がどうしておじにいじめられてるのを耐えてるか知ってる。
Everyone looked startled and turned to me.
昔の聡子はいじめられるときっと泣きながら兄の背中に隠れてた。でも結局そのせいで兄が逃げてしまったんだと聡子は思ってる。
誰に聞いたのかな？
監督か。
I nodded quietly.
聡子はおじのいじめに耐えれば兄が帰ってくると信じることによって今を耐え抜こうとしてるのかもしれない。でもそんな思い込みとサトシが帰ってくるのは聡子には悪いがそれが現実だ。
Everyone hung their heads. Everyone was thinking the same
聡
thing.
子は多分誰の助けも喜ばない。自分一人の力で耐え忍びたいと思ってる。でもそれを尊重してやるのが果たして正しいだろうか俺は思わない。一時聡子に恨まれることになろうと聡子の意志に関わらず助けるべき時があると思う。俺はそれが今じゃないかと思ってる。
I told them all about what I saw and how I felt when I went to Satoko's house yesterday.
圭一君は話すべきだと思ってるってことだね。
もちろん
公的機関への通報で聡子が保護されるのが確定してからだ。その確認のないうちは聡子をかえって危険にさらすこともあり得るからな。
難しいね。先生との会話の中でその確約ってのが取れるわけ？
I had no confidence, but we had to try. Meanwhile, Rika-chan had her hand raised for a while, as if waiting for an opportunity to speak.
圭一に任せますです。
いいのかいリカちゃん。
圭一はここにいる誰よりも聡子のことを考えていますです。その圭一が話すべき時だと判断したなら、僕は文句なんか言わないのですよ。
ありがとう。ミオンもレナもそれでいいか？
Mion seemed to hesitate, not knowing if she should agree. When she saw Rena's firm nod, she made up her mind and did the same.
よし、行くぞ、ミオン。
うん。
Again, this is just all true adult terrors, right? Like, this is horror of, you know, going to talk to ask for help with something like in the teacher's office. Like, that's a real fear. And honestly, like, well, the fingernail stuff last time was bad, right? I'm never going to experience that in my life. I hope. I really hope. But this is something I experience at least once a month. These adult fears, right? Only Chie-sensei was in the teacher's lounge. We didn't see the principal anywhere. The schedule on the blackboard under the principal's name said training going straight home. Our principal's sense of justice was too strong. Satoko's problems wouldn't be solved with something so vague. Maybe it was a stroke of good luck that he wasn't here. When the teacher saw Mion and I come in, she closed up her curry bento, saving the rest for later.
そこへおかけなさい。
She told us to take a seat in the chairs directly in front of the principal's seat. I hadn't sat in this chair since doing the paperwork for transferring in. The two of us sat there uncomfortably before the teacher walked over, carrying a notepad and a ballpoint pen, and sat in front of us. That's a terrifying thing. Oh my god. Again, just small things.
今日は午前中お休みでしたけど、何かありましたか？
すみません、寝坊です。
本当に？
先生に嘘言っても。
She narrowed her eyes and looked at me in suspicion. Now I was sure of it. She wanted to talk about
ま
Satoko.
ず、二人とも知ってると思いますけど、お友達の北条さんがここしばらくお休みしてますね。
Neither Mion nor I had anything to say in response, but the teacher proceeded, not minding.
何か知っていますか？クラスで良くない噂をしている人たちがいます。
Mion looked down and remained silent as though she were being lectured. She sent me a quick glance. Everyone had made up their minds. They'd be leaving things to me.
委員長、前原くんも。先生は別に怒ってるんじゃありませんよ。もしも知っていたら、教えてほしいとお願いしているだけで
Oh
す。
my god, please believe us. Please believe us, please.
先生、先にこっちから質問してもいいですか？
She must not have anticipated that response. She looked surprised.
クラス中で聡子のどんな噂が飛び交ってる
Yeah,
かは
this
知りません
this
が、
might be good to ask, actually, because I was wondering about that too.
仮にその噂が真実だったとして、
Oh, never mind.
先生はどうするつもりですか？
どうするもこうするも、その話が本当なら放っておけません。
Okay, that's good.
放っておけないって、具体的にはどう放っておけないんですか？
Sensei's eyebrows shot up. Maybe I said it like I was trying to pick a fight.
前原くん、先生は真面目にお話ししてるんですよ。
先生こそ、俺はすごく真面目な話をしているんです。まず答えてください。真実だったとして、どう放っておけないんです？
Sensei took a few breaths and then began to speak slowly.
まず、状況を確かめるために、北条さんの家を家庭訪問します。
Okay.
おじに怒鳴りつけられて追い返されるかもしれませんね。まあいいや、仮におじと聡子に会えたとします。それで
そして、真意を聞きます。
Oh, and you think he'd say?
その事実が確認できたなら
Oh god.
指導します。
指導って曖昧な言い方はやめてください。具体的には何をするんですか？
Even despite my tone being so provocative, Chie-sensei bit back her emotions and listened calmly. I thought then that she was a good teacher. Chie-sensei really did have her students' best interests at heart. But she didn't have the power or the authority to save Satoko. If she let her sense of justice run away with her, the situation could get more complex. Sensei folded her arms and for a few moments she closed her eyes as though mentally concentrating. And when they opened again, there was a strictness in her eyes I'd never seen before.
児童福祉法という法律があります。この法律で児童に対する虐待は何人に
Okay,
対しても
so
認め
yeah,
られて
the
いないこ
rumors
と
are
が明記され
exactly
てい
what we
ます。
think they are.
らしいですね。それで
沖宮の生活相談所へ通報します。さっき前原くんは追い返されると言いましたね。この相談所の職員は必要に応じて警察官を同行させることができます。恫喝には絶対に屈しません。
その福祉士というお役所の人は連絡して書類で申請して何日後に助けに来てくれるんです？
即日です。彼らの仕事は児童の安全を緊急に保護することですから。
知ってますよ。緊急性があると判断された場合ですよね。認められなかったら先生と同じ指導をして様子見をするんですよね。
Oh my god, this is again, like the tenseness of this is so palpable.
見てるだけ。聡子のおじの機嫌を悪くして聡子をその場に残したままそれっきり。
ケイちゃん、ちょっと言い過ぎ。
嘘はついてないだろ。去年だか一昨年だかに児童相談所が来た時がまさにそうだったんだろう。その結果どうなった？俺よりもミオンや先生の方がよっぽどよく知ってるだろうが。
I'd said too much. I didn't need Mion to tell me that. I was talking crazy and itching for a fight. I was supposed to be telling her about the situation only after I was sure I could save Satoko, but I basically told her everything right from the start. Chie-sensei looked at the clock, stood up, and picked up the phone at the principal's seat.
もしもし、内線の3455をお願いします。
Oh.
いいのケイちゃん、本当に
Oh my god, are we doing this?
大丈
Is
夫
it
かな？
is it happening right now? It was too late. The die had been cast. Now we could only pray.
お世話になっております。
Oh my god, is this happening?
ひなみ沢文庫教諭の千恵と申しますが、指導室の渡辺主事はいらっしゃいますでしょうか？
I don't know if we've met a Watanabe yet.
はい、ええ。ちょっと急用がございまして、至急校長と連絡が取りたいのですが。はい、お願いします。緊急とお伝えください。よろしくお願いします。
The teacher put down the phone and tilted her head back and took a breath like I always did.
二人にもう一度だけ聞きます。クラスのみんなの噂はすべて本当なんですね。
はい。俺は昨日聡子の家に行って実際にどういうことになっているのか見ました。
This is where you say you saw the bruises, buddy.
あとは先生に任せてください。聡子ちゃんはきっと先生が何とかします。
なんとか？いい加減なことを言わないでください。なんとかじゃない。絶対でなければならない。もしもまた様子見なんてこと
Oh,
に
I
なった
thought that
ら
was my phone for a sec.
先
I
生
don't
は
even have a
どう
phone.
責任を取るつもりですか？
While I was yelling, the phone rang. Chie-sensei snatched the receiver up first.
もしもし。あ、研修中申し訳ありません。はい。実は例の北条聡子さんの件でお話が。はい。
Sensei waved us away, telling us we could leave now. Mion went to leave, but I held my ground. I had a responsibility to make sure she stopped saying such vague, ambiguous things. If it didn't look like she was going to say anything substantial, then I'd tell them the truth, even if I had to steal the phone from her.
はい。いえ、まだ相談所には。はい。まだ確認はしていませんが、クラスの子の話では相当な様子です。
相当なんてもんじゃないぞ。すぐにだ。今すぐ何とかしろ。通報するならどこへだっていい。でもな、もしも様子見なんてことになってみろ。ただじゃ済まさないからな。
Oh my god, dude. Oh, there is such a catharsis to this because this is what I want him to do, but I'm also terrified of the fact that we're only halfway through the game. I yelled angrily at Sensei and the principal on the other end. I wanted to somehow, some way, convey to them just how dangerous her situation was right now.
それは分かっています。ちゃんと伝えますから。委員長、前原君を連れて教室に戻りなさい。
はい。行くよ、ケイちゃん。あとは先生たちに任せよ。
絶対だぞ。
Until the very last moment, I glared at Sensei. Chie-sensei was feeling pressured by the likes of me. Idiot, this isn't the time to feel pressured. Now's the time when you give a firm nod to reassure me. Even so, we've already left things in our hands. At this point, we really can't do anything but pray. Bang! Mion shut the door to the teacher's lounge. This is, again, here's the thing. Again, there's, no, horror going on, and yet I'm the most stressed I've been in this entire game. Oh my god, stats from the Ministry of Health and Welfare? Shut up, this is gonna suck ass! Influence, asked for help from a grown-up. This is the most riveting stuff we've had so far. Truly. One sec, I need to get my hat on. There it is. Alright, well, let's read these tips. Article. What do we got here? Article 2. Definition of child abuse. I'm already mad. The term child abuse means the following acts committed by a custodian, meaning a person who exercises parental authority, a guardian of minor, or a person who is currently engaged in the custody of a child. Herein the same shall apply. Against a child, meaning a person who is under 18 of age. Herein the same shall apply. 1. Assault the child in a manner that will cause or is likely to cause external injury on the body of the child. We know she has bruises. 2. Engage in indecency against the child or cause the child to act in indecency. I'm not saying we have proof of that, but there is bruises on her legs. That's all I'm going to say. 3. Substantially reduce the amount of food for the child or abandon and neglect the child for a long time in a manner that may interfere with normal development of the child, mentally or physically, not going to school, or otherwise materially fail to perform the duty of a custodian, also forcing her to go get the stuff. 4. Speak or behave in a manner that would be significantly traumatic to the child. Yep. Article 3. Prohibition of child abuse. No person shall abuse a child. I swear to God, if we get into the thing that's but if it's a spanking, it's okay. Law number Act 82 of 2000. Authorized by the Minister of Health and Welfare. Okay, that wasn't as infuriating as I thought. This might be this. Okay, what are we doing here? 19 blank. Principal abusers in cases reported to the Ministry of Health and Welfare. Oh boy. 5,352. Mother by blood. 2,000. Oh. Huh. Wait, is mother the majority? Whoa, what? Whoa, that's actually really surprising. Wait. Oh, types of abuse, okay. Total, 5,000 some. Physical abuse, 51%. Neglect, 32. Psychological, 400. Forbidden from going to school, 75. Sexual violence, 311. Okay, that stinger noise, as well as her portrait there, that's it. Here's the thing. They don't actually need to say, here's what I think. They don't actually need to say that she is being. We don't need descriptions. This isn't Fate Stay Night. We don't need to hear about Shinji doing what he does, right? That alone confirms it, right? That's it. That's all you need to say. We know it's happening. I don't need any more details. At least personally speaking, right? That's just how I feel. I sort of understood that that's probably going on. I feel like I don't want to say it's the obvious thing in a story like this, but let's be real. With an uncle like that, like, yeah, like that's, you can't stop it, unfortunately, in terms of it being a storytelling element. But I was more curious about how they would handle it. And if that is the only thing we get from it, that's all we need. And it's subtle. It reminds you that it exists. Interesting that it's the first time it comes up is just that last one. And just that very last section, that's all we need, right? That's, personally speaking, I think for a subject matter as heavy as this is the way you handle it. At least, you know, that's where I'm kind of coming from. If there's more on it, or if it comes up later but it's still handled well, that's okay. But I don't want it to be treated in a bad manner, you know, because I feel like this is a chapter that's saying some very important stuff, and I don't want it to just be kind of used for, how can I say this? I don't want it used for shock, and I definitely don't want it used for fetish. And I mean, that you might be like, why would you even think that? I mean, it's still a thing that absolutely comes up for some games, as that's what it is. And I'm feeling, again, with the sort of history of the author and all that, I don't think it's going to be. But we'll see, right? Regardless, again, this is the most fear I've felt for the whole game so far, and it's still going real strong, right? So we'll see where we go from here next time, guys. So thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time for some more Let's Read Higurashi, the Tatarigoroshi chapter. Bye. Yo.